Happy Halloween! Hey everybody, it's your girl Amanda. Welcome to The Buzzed Artist, a channel where you can unleash your creativity and just have fun with acrylic paint. We are hopping into another Halloween spooktacular painting. This is going to be one of the last ones for the season, so I'm super excited to end this one with a bang. We are going to be painting a headless horseman holding a flaming pumpkin, ready to find his next victim. This horseman is hell-bent on finding his head, and he is galloping through a desolate Halloween-looking landscape. I am so excited to paint this one, and I am very excited to show you guys how to do it as well. And before we get started, please be sure to like this video and to subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos in the future. Okay, let's go. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to show you a couple of items we were going to be using for this painting. So I have here an 11 by 14 canvas pre-gessoed. So the reason why it looks so weird is because I was working on another painting, I didn't quite like it, and so I just painted over this with gesso so that I can kind of start fresh. So if ever you have paintings like that you don't exactly like how they came out and you want to reuse that canvas, all you gotta do really is just sand the painting that you had on top so you can get a nice smooth surface, and then just lay some gesso paint on top of that. And then you'll be able to have a fresh, clean canvas to start with. Paintbrushes we'll be using, we're going to be using our Classic 3. So I got my filbert brush. I have a brush that has, it's fairly stiff, which is what I really like. And it's also got a rounded tip. And then I got my small brush. And I also will be using 4 paints. So I got a Mars Black, Titanium White, a Primary Red, and Yellow. So these are the 4 colors we'll be using to make our Headless Horseman. I will be including all the links to all these materials that I'm using in the description below, so please be sure to look at that. I also made a stencil of our Headless Horseman. So this is something that I figured would be best served on a stencil. That way I can kind of pick and place where I want to put him on the canvas, and all I have to do then is just trace and then complete the details. So I'm going to be putting in a traceable in the description below for you guys, so you can just print this out and cut it out, or you can trace it on, and then you can follow along right along with me. Now that I got my stencil, once you have it all cut out and ready to go, I'm going to start to place it where I think it would go in the picture. So just to kind of give you a little context, we're going to be putting in some grass, some background trees, and a moon back here. So I don't want him to be completely centered. I kind of want the horse hooves. Well, he actually is kind of centered, just slightly off to the right. So I'm just going to place him in his horse, and what it's really cool about stencils is that you can adjust the horse to be any angle. So I'm really digging this angle. It's like a very good action shot. So I do want to put him here, and maybe I'm just going to just bring him down just a little bit, just like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a Sharpie, and I'm just going to trace around my Headless Horseman. Now, the reason why I'm doing this first is because when I go over my paint with my background, I can paint right over this, and I can still kind of see the Sharpie lines when I'm done, so I don't have to kind of guess where I put everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace. Don't be too concerned about making this perfect. All you kind of want to do is just lay the foundation of where everything is relatively, like where his cape's going to be, and we're going to be adding it more, details and whatnot to the cape and to the mane of the horse and to the legs and all that. So don't be too concerned just yet with making this absolutely perfect. And then I'm just gonna So I think I got a general feel for how this is gonna go. Awesome. I love silhouettes. Silhouettes are so much fun. Okay, so I'm just going to connect some more dots here. But I'm happy with this. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to lay down the background. So we're gonna be grabbing our filbert, we dip them in water, and what we're going to do now is we're going to make that nice orange sky. So the way we're gonna start is we're gonna take some red, not too much, and then I'm gonna take some yellow, and I'm gonna mix those two together. When it comes to making orange, you want to kind of veer more towards a yellow combination than a lot of red. Red is a very overpowering color, so the more you use it, the more it's going to kind of take over. So I would always suggest taking a little bit of red at a time and just working with it. So this orange, I'm really liking it. I like how vibrant it is. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna head to my canvas, holding my brush like a pencil, and I'm just gonna, with the broad side of the brush, I'm just gonna start making some horizontal strokes. And I'm basically going to cover a good portion of my canvas. I don't want to cover everything completely because I will be using other colors for like the edges and whatnot. So I'm just going ahead and spreading that color. And if you have a little trouble pulling your paint, just adding a little bit of water can really help you go a long way with that. See what I mean about the stencil kind of still coming through even though you put paint on top? That's exactly what you want to do. So I'm gonna cover probably to like right around, I'm gonna leave about like an inch of canvas border here and an inch on top of here untouched, because we'll be putting in a different color there. So there's really no need to have to cover that up in orange, especially if it's gonna get covered up anyways. What's important is you leave enough orange so you can get a good blend. And I'm just going to carry the orange off the edges of my canvas on the sides. So I'm gonna need more yellow. I'm telling you, when it comes to the amount of paints that I end up using a lot of, it always ends up being a lot of yellow and a lot of white. Those happen to be the colors that I guess, you know, you need a bit more of them to kind of make it work. And I'm actually liking the fact that every time I remix my colors that they're not entirely the same. I do like to see variety in my colors. And I'm also going to make sure to paint the sides of my canvas as well. Okay, and so now that I've kind of laid down a general color here, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take my brush and dip it in some straight up yellow. And I want to create just a little bit of a lighter effect happening in the center here. So I'm just going to take my brush. I'm going to go ahead and spread out that color. Now, because my paint that I just previously laid down, that orange I laid down, is still wet, this is perfect. This is exactly the look that I'm trying to go for. It's not like pop in your face, but it's just enough. And you know what? In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little yellow and I'm going to add a little bit of white to it because I do want to create a little bit of an opaqueness. Okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and create that center. This is going to be a really cool effect. Whenever it comes to like a bright color like this, I love putting in accents of color because I find that it adds character, adds a bit more depth to your painting, just makes it come alive a little more. And like I said before, because my canvas is still wet from laying down the previous colors, this is going to create an amazing blend for me. And so I'm just taking my brush and I'm just carrying the paint, pulling it. Alright, so I'm really liking the blending here. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in the black that's kind of like surrounding this entire frame. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to clean it up, and I'm just going to dip it in some black. Not too much. When it comes to putting in black, again, it's like red, it's very powerful. So I'm just taking a little bit at a time, just coating my brush. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm just going to lay down the black color, and I'm going to blend it into the paint that is previously underneath there. Now, like I said, because my paint is still wet, I can totally get away with this. So I'm just going to just slowly blend, bringing the black and taking it down into the orange, and I'm actually not pressing very hard on my brush. I'm just very lightly taking the color and bringing it down and letting it blend with the orange. Okay. Alright, see that really cool effect? It just kind of like started blending. That's exactly what we want to go for. And so if you find that, you know, some time has elapsed and your painting is not quite as wet as it used to be, all you gotta do is just make that orange color, start at the top, apply it, and then go in with the black and start your blending. Because what you want is wet paint. That is really the end goal here. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my brush. I'm serious when I say I barely touch the canvas. Like, I'm using very light strokes. Like, I'm just kind of like skimming with my brush because I don't want to like overpower and like have a lot of paint kind of glob over. That's not what I'm going for. Okay, so that's really cool. I'm digging it. And the same thing kind of goes for the bottom. So I'm just going to take my brush and black, and I'm just going to go and spread it on the bottom of my canvas. Just take my brush. And again, I'm going to do that blending. I'm just going to take it up. Now, because I'm going to be making like a ground, like some sort of like ground that's happening, I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate about the black here. So I'm just going to take my brush, and with the tip I'm just going to create a line, and then I'm just going to take whatever remaining paint I have on my brush and just kind of drag it down. Okay, so I'm just creating that illusion of a ground here that the Headless Horseman is galloping on. And just a tip, I'm not taking my brush and just like bloop, going straight into it. I'm taking like little bits at a time, like that. Like you can barely see it. I have little bits on it, and I just kind of go in and apply the color, just like so. All right. And if you want to make your hills a little bit like rolling, like there's like some stuff happening with the action of the hill, you can go ahead and add that in. Now, so my filber, I may want to switch to another brush soon to kind of smooth out whatever's happening over here. But I'm just gonna do some final finishing touches on the sides here. So it's gonna be adding some black. I do want a more definitive black on the bottom. That's kind of my goal. Fading into the blackness. And again, I'm going to make sure I get the edges of my canvas. This is a nice little way to avoid framing your canvas. It looks pretty much all ready and stretched over some wood and ready to hang on your wall. It's better than that, right? Okay. Got the sides up here. Okay. Alright, very cool. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean filber, put them away, because now, so I had in my comments to never leave the paintbrushes in the paint cup. Thank you for that tip. So now I clean them thoroughly and then I put them on my paper napkin next to me. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to my smaller brush, and I kind of want to just finish off a little bit of the hills here so they're a little cleaner. So I'm going to take my brush, wet it a little bit, take it in some black, and what I'm just going to do is very lightly, like kind of the same pressure like I was using with filber, I'm just going to go in and just kind of create more clean lines over the top here. Okay. This part's very short. I wanted to do it just so I can get a nice clean line going. Alright, very cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this dry. So now I'm going to show you guys how to make the moon that's happening like right around here somewhere. So I'm going to be taking my medium brush. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and clean, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in some white and a little bit of yellow. Because now once I got it nicely coated, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the top of my canvas, right around here, and I'm just going to paint in a circle for my moon. Okay. This part, we don't have to make it complicated, it doesn't have to be crazy. Just a moon. And I'm actually going to add a little bit more yellow to this because what I want to do is just create like a little bit of a shadow. So with that yellow, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get to the edge of the moon here on the right, and I'm just going to kind of add in a little bit of a color blend here. So I'm just kind of laying down the color, and then I'm just blending it in with the color that we laid down previously. And I think I'm happy with it. I don't want to really touch it much anymore. So we're done with our moon for now. Okay. So what we're going to work on next, let's see. Okay, so what I want to work on next is a couple of trees that are in the backgrounds here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to once again be using my medium-sized brush, and we're just going to dip it in our black. Okay, so I'm making sure my brush is nicely coated. Okay, so I'm going to start with a tree that's over here. Now, when it comes to trees, everyone's afraid of trees, and it could be intimidating, but all it takes is just patience and just going slow. Now that your canvas is kind of dry, you can kind of take this a lot slower and use the palm of your hand to steady your fingers while you're using your brush. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to hold it like a pencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the first tree. So the tree, I like to do like two parts of the tree. So I'm going to do the left side of the tree first. So I'm going to create a line that goes up. It goes up, 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 up. So like right about here, I think. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to branch out. So I'm going to make a line that comes out. Just like so. Okay. And let's see here. So with this line that we just made, we're going to make another line that's coming out of it just like this. So when it comes to anything with trees, always think of the letter Y when you're making branches. So when the branches come out, they come out looking like the letter Y. So that's basically the same principle over and over again. You're just making a lot of little Ys in your branches. So let's see, I'm just going to thicken up this branch a little bit. If you want to go down to the smallest brush that you have to be a bit more precise with the tree branches, you can totally go ahead and do that, and I'll show you. So if you want to take the smallest brush, I'm just dipping it in some water and dip it in my black. To do branches, really, like the tips especially, if you want to get them right, the tips are always, always thin. And then when the branch kind of goes into the tree, it thickens up. So you can always just kind of go in lightly with your brush and just add in that final detail. But I'm going to go back in with my large brush. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here, and I'm probably going to make another branch that's coming out this way. And there might be some portions of the tree that like kind of disappear in the blackness on the top. That's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and add that in. Okay. And then I'm gonna go bring this down. And I'm probably gonna just go ahead and make another branch coming out this way. Again, think of the letter Y. Always think of the letter Y. Okay. And now that I've kind of completed like the tree portion here, I can go back in and just finish up the trunk. So I'm kind of walking my brush down and filling it in. And when it comes to tree trunks are pretty big, and they're thick. That's a big character. It's a very telling characteristic of a tree. So I'm making sure that the trunk is pretty sturdy and that there's enough to go around. So I'm just making sure that when it comes back down to the ground, it kind of slopes out like this. And usually what I do is whenever I'm kind of like done with a tree, what I usually do is I go in with my smaller brush and I'll kind of go in and fill in any details that I think like would make this look more realistic. So for example, I feel like this needs more branches, so I'm just going to take my brush and bring it out towards the middle of the tree and pop out a branch. Again, considering the letter Y. And let's see, I'm just going to go ahead and smooth out the borders of the tree here, so it's got a smooth edge. And actually, you know what? I want to make this branch go out a little further. It's almost like it's reaching, pulling. Okay. So when it comes to trees, once you kind of do one, you kind of know how to do them all. They're pretty straightforward. Same principles apply for trees, really. Just think about your lines and the Y. Okay. And I'm probably going to do another branch coming out this way, so I'm going to do one, again, thinking of the letter Y, it's coming out. So every time I make a new branch, I always like work on the base just to make sure that it makes sense when it's coming out of it. I always try to think of like, when you think of about a plant growing, it always kind of has like the same general pattern. It kind of comes off almost like tangent to whatever it is that it's growing off of. And it always ends up making the letter Y. Again, it goes back to the letter Y. So again, the base of the branch is always thicker than the tip. And so I'm just going to thin it out on the tip here. I'm going to make another branch coming out this way. Another branch coming out this way, just like so. Okay, awesome. And that is how you make a tree. Now, I'm probably going to make another one over here. So, again, same principles, same things that you have to go and do. So I'm going to move back to my medium brush. I'm going to dip it in some black. I'm going to tilt it so I can get a better angle. And I always say this, when it comes to anything with paint, you have to do what's comfortable for you, whatever angle, whatever, whatever perspective you want to take it. This is your painting. You can do whatever you want. So, I'm just gonna make the left portion of the tree. So I'm gonna lay it down. Okay. And I'm just gonna make a line going up to like right around here. And then I'm going to make the other portion of the branch, or the trunk rather. And so I'm just going to thicken up the trunk a little bit here to my liking. And I'm just going to go ahead and create the branch. So I think I'm done with the big brush. So I'm just gonna clean it up. Set it here. I'm gonna go back to my small brush. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the details. So you guys don't have to exactly follow along with what I'm doing in terms of like exact branches. It's, you know, it's very tedious. So for me to go step by step like this, it is a little tough, but you can follow along. But at this point, you can kind of figure out, like, you can kind of do the rest on your own in terms of like making branches, because it's all the same principle. I'm just going in and adding branches, remembering my why. Okay, always remember the why. Okay, like branch coming out this way. And this one I'm going to make intertwining with the other branch. I'll be honest with you, I love it when stuff intersects. I think it's totally cool and sexy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make a branch coming out of there. Now, if you feel like you messed up at some point, you know, you made branches that just look weird and you're like, shit, what do I do? All you have to do is just wait for your paint to dry. Then you can just go back in with your orange, make that background again, paint over it, and then once that's all kind of dried out, you can just go back in and repeat and make your branches. Okay, so not all is lost. When it comes to painting, it's okay to experiment and make mistakes. You're supposed to do that. That's the whole thing about painting and just being creative. You're willing to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, you need to make mistakes. Otherwise, you really won't grow in your art and in painting, okay? There's not many things out there that allow you to make mistakes just like this. But whenever it comes to something like a creative venture, mistakes are always encouraged and applauded, okay? And as Bob Ross would say, there are no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents. Okay? It all comes down to perspective. Okay. So I'm happy with my tree here. So obviously I'm just gonna add a little bit more stuff to it because, yes. Okay. So what I'm gonna do next is I want to, let's see here. I want to go ahead and start to paint in our headless horseman. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick with my small brush, dip it in my black, and I'm just gonna go ahead and fill this part in. You can move on to your bigger brush if you don't want to be here all day. That's fine. Now I'm gonna not paint in the pumpkin here completely with black. I'm just going to put a little black underneath here, but I'm gonna leave that mostly alone for now. so I'm going to fill in the rest of his body with a bigger brush because I don't want to be here all day. So I'm going to take my medium brush, dip it in some black, and go to town. But mind the edges because those I'd like to go with more detail with our small brush. So once I'm happy with filling it in, I'm going to go back in with my small brush now, and I'm going to take it in black, and now I'm going to do like the tiny details. So like the coat of our headless horseman, I like to give it that more tattered look, so I'm just going to add like little strokes onto his cloak here. So I'm going above the bounds, obviously, of our stencil. That's kind of like the whole intent, was just to kind of get the basic shape, and then you can kind of like experiment and play. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the horse's tail here. So his tail kind of has like a little bit of a flourish to it. Just gonna have like tendrils of hair. And then I'm going to do his mane as well, so I'm just going to add like little brush strokes for the hair. So I'm kind of giving him like a more wild looking mane. And this is all silhouette, so this is all it's a very forgiving form here. So you can kind of, if you ever make a little mistake, it's a silhouette, you know, people can kind of figure out when you look far away what this is. Okay. So I'm just going to go in and finalize some details here. The hooves or where it would be. Okay. This looks awesome. So I'm gonna wait for this part to dry. While that's drying, what I'm gonna do next is I'm just going to work on, I'm probably gonna put like a little fence like right in the background here, just to kind of give it more of a mysterium. So I'm gonna take my small brush and I'm gonna head over to the back portion of the tree here and just create a line. It doesn't have to be completely straight. I'm just gonna create a line to like right about here. And then I'm going to do the same, do another line coming out this way. And then I'm just going to create posts. And I'm just going to make vertical lines. Now what I like is that all the posts are not like equally spaced. I think that adds like more of a haunted feel to this, like abandoned almost, like this hasn't been maintained in a while. Okay, so once I kind of have that, I'm gonna work on making the grass. So the grass is all on the bottom here, and I kind of want to do like a sweeping motion so it connects like the trunk of this tree here down into the grass and out this way. So what I'm going to do is with my small brush once again, I'm just going to take it, and to do a grass blade, all it is you take your brush and you move it up, just like so. And to do grass blades, you're just moving your brush up for for a long time, really. So you're just moving your brush and you're making like bushes of grass blades, if that makes sense. You're just making a lot and they're in a cluster. Oops. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, I think it would be really cool to add like more of a Halloween feel, so to put some bats here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my small brush, dip it in some black, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pick a spot where I want to put a bat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 lines, kind of like what a bird would look like. Okay, so you got the two wings of a bird, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to elongate the body here. So I'm going to do two little peaks for the ears, and then I'm just going to make the wings, and it's got this like scalloped effect, and then I fill that in. Okay, and that's how you make a bat. So I'm probably gonna make like 1 or 2 more, so I'm just going to create another one here. Again, I'm just gonna do the wing of a bird, then I'm gonna fill in the body, put 2 little ears, scallop the wings. So nothing crazy. This one here, because it's a kind of a smaller bat in the distance, I'm just going to do 2 lines converging. And I think I'm good with that. So what I'm going to do next is I want to do some stars in the sky, showing this haunted night. So I'm going to take my brush, clean it, and I'm going to dip it in some white. And I'm going to just make little dots. Around the moon. Another trick, if you are having a little bit of trouble with your brush bristle, is you can just turn your brush the other way and use the wooden tip, dip it in your white, and then you can just simply go ahead and create the stars. Okay. I don't want to do too much. I think that's enough. Okay. Now, I want to do the pumpkin here. This is the famous looking pumpkin head of our Headless Horseman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to make an orange color. So I'm going to take some red, then I'm going to take some yellow. I'm going to combine those together to make an orange. Now, I don't want this to blend in the background, so what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to add a bit of white to this. I want to lighten it up. A bit more yellow too while we're at it. Okay. So now that I have my color, I'm just going to go in and that's a little too blended. Alright, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to add a bit more red. Always improvising. So, aha, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, so adding a little bit of red will kind of get you there. So I'm just going to fill this part in. And once I have that filled in, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to dip it in a little bit of black. Not too much, just a little. And I'm just going to go to the edge here so I can create a shadow. And again, I don't want too much black because I don't want it to overpower the red we just laid down, but I'm just going to drag in the color. And I'm going to blend it in with the color we just laid down. Okay. Now I'm going to just carry that black a little bit so I can get a little bit more of a blend going on. Okay. Awesome. We're nearing the end. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to make the fire that's coming out of the pumpkin, the eyes, and all the details that are happening on our headless horseman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of red. And I'm going to take white. Okay. I want to create, actually a lot more white. I want to create like this, it's like a luminous kind of look. So I think this will work. So usually what I do, I don't want it to have too much globs of paint. So I'll just take whatever paint I have and I'll take the edge of my brush and I'll go to the edge of my paint palette and I'll twist my brush so that all the excess paint comes off. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the pumpkin grin, so I'm going to get the eyes here. Actually, this is a little wet still, so I'll move on to here. So our headless horseman has no head, so I'm going to create kind of like a little vacant space right there for his head to accentuate that. And I'm going to go in and add like tiny little details to accentuate kind of where he ends and where the horse and cape begin. So I'm just going to I'm not going to do a complete outline, I just want to do like little highlights really. So just want to create a little bit of that for him. I want to go to his foot. I'm going to do a knee here. Again, this is all kind of like hints of what is really there. So I don't want to do like a complete outline and kind of ruin the illusion. This horse has got that like separation in his mane. I'm going to do like a little triangle here, just separate, like to almost look like it's his arm holding on to the horse. And then I'm going to do the same with the mane here. So I'm just going to add like a little bit of an accent to the mane. Horse has like a demonic kind of eye going on here. And that's just like a little triangle. And again, if you're not, if you made a mistake, if you're not really like digging some part of this, of your horseman, you always can go back in with black and cover that up. Add some tatters to him. I do like actually seeing like the ghostly white kind of just trailing off. I think that's actually a really cool look. It's almost look like he's fading, and so is his horse into the darkness, so. So the pumpkin has some flames coming out of it, so I'm just going to go to the edge of the pumpkin and just create some tendrils of this color coming out on the top here, and probably off a little to the side as well. Now I'm just taking my brush and kind of like pushing it down and then just doing like little tiny squiggly lines on the top. I'm also going to do the horse legs as well. Just making sure that they're separated. Okay, so I was just doing a couple little tweaks here and there. With the black. So like I said, you know, there are some parts where if you feel like you're not quite, you know, liking a certain part on the horse, you can always go back in and fill in with the black. No problem. So I kind of just went in a little bit. I was trying to tweak his outfit a little bit as well. And I think I've gotten it to the point where I'm like getting okay with it. I've actually experimented with like using a little bit of gray to accentuate, you know, his coat and what's happening here with you know, the fabric of his person. Okay, and so I can be tweedling along with this all day, but I wanted to show you the final part, which is our jack-o'-lantern head. So I'm just gonna go back in with that same color we did with the flames here. And I'm just going to create the menacing eyes. And then the smile. So I'm just gonna do that very like menacing, like jigsaw teeth. So I'm just gonna do like a lot of triangles, and then I'm just gonna thicken that up a little bit. Okay. Alright, awesome. So I'm just gonna go fill in some portions left there, and probably just fill in this part on his empty head here. Okay, awesome. And you know what? I think I'm gonna add one more little detail, because why not? I'm gonna take some white and take a little bit of black and we're going to make the color gray. I'm being careful not to add a lot of black, I just want to do a little bit at a time here. Okay. Because what I'm going to do now is I want to just add a little bit of detail to the trees here, so I'm just going to go in with my tiny brush and I'm just going to add in like some of the, like, I guess what would be the reflection of the branches. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that. For the tree that's on the right, I'm adding it to the left. And I'm not completely covering it. I just want to get little bits and pieces here and there. And I'm probably going to do like maybe a second line, but not, I don't want to like go too crazy really. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the other tree, except I'm going to concentrate a lot of the paint on the right side. And again, I'm going very gently with my brush. I'm not putting too much pressure on it. And what this is really good for is those branches that had kind of like disappeared in the top portion of the canvas here. All of a sudden they kind of pop out now. Just like so. And if you want to add a little bit more of like an effect on the grass itself, you can always go in and add in some gray blades of grass. You can always go ahead and do that. Especially if you want to add some on the bottom here, just so it adds a little bit more of like a cacophony of grass. And again, grass, you just kind of move your brush up. Okay. And you just do a cluster. Okay. Actually, I'm a big fan of like using contrast colors, especially when it comes to like a Halloween scene. I like to have a lot going on in the painting. I find that it adds a lot more drama and a lot more contrast too between all the things that are happening in here. And again, I'm kind of concentrating the grass, kind of leaning it to one side to make it look like there really is like a strong wind that's pushing the grass blades. Okay, so this is your very own Headless Horseman. Alright, congratulations you guys. I am so happy that I was able to walk you through this painting. I'm going to be putting it into my gallery of paintings that I have in my house for Halloween. I hope you will do the same. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm always putting out videos once a week, every week on Wednesdays. And if you have any ideas on what kind of paintings that you would like for me to do, please comment below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And if you have a painting that you followed along with me and you want to show me, I would love to see them. Please be sure to leave them in the comments below or go on my Facebook like page and be sure to share your artwork with me. I'd love to see it. Alright guys, once again, my name is Amanda and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween, stay safe, and watch out for razor blades in your candy. Bye! Check out all of the Halloween decor that I have here. Just decorated my entire house with some Halloween stuff, with stuff that I've painted. Check that out. Remember that painting, you guys? Alright. Got some Halloween decorations here. Got my little scarecrow. And this was the one that started off the season. And this is my leaves and pumpkin. And last but not least, I have my little guy here. He's just chilling, hiding behind his little lantern. Awesome. Oh, and last but not least, I have one other little one here, just hanging out next to the entrance. Awesome. Hope you guys have decorated your houses for Halloween. So I just showed you my Halloween decorations. These are mostly items that I have handmade myself, especially with all the paintings that we've done together. And I just love to see my own creations on the walls surrounding me. I don't know what it is, but there's a sense of pride, and it motivates me to want to keep going, to paint more, and it gives me so many more ideas. So surround yourself with your art. Whatever you have, put it up on the walls. You never know what will inspire you in the future. It really is a beautiful thing to be surrounded by your artwork. It's so beautiful, and it's the simplest thing to do. It's a small little thing you can do for yourself, whether that be painting on canvas, whether that be painting on cardboard, rocks, whatever. Surround yourself with all the good. Surround yourself with your talent, with your creativity, and feed your soul, feed your mind, and feed your body with all of this beautiful artwork around you. Alright everybody, I hope you all have a happy Halloween, stay safe, and love you all. Bye!